The movie deal didn't work out too well either. It turned out to be a made-for-TV movie titled Everybody's Baby, which aired in May of 1989. Robert was the only rescuer to get a part in the movie. He played a reporter who was a brief non-speaking role. He sat down to watch the movie with his family. He excitedly repeated the phrase, "Here comes my part," but his part never came. Robert had never been told that his part had been eliminated from the movie. He was devastated. This seems like an unfair action on the part of the production company, but maybe they just needed the Americans off the runtime. I don't know what their reasoning was. Robert had migraines on occasion before the incident, but after the media attention died, he had them every day. He couldn't stop thinking about the rescue. He told his mother, "I can't stop it. I don't know what to do." He started using prescription painkillers excessively, to the point where he couldn't even talk. He also took a lot of aspirin, so much that his stomach bled. His wife asked him to move out in April of 1991 after finding him passed out in the house. He also passed out at work and was sent to a rehabilitation facility. In August of 1992, he quit his job after refusing to take a drug test. Functionally, he was fired for using drugs. He ended up moving in with his mother. Robert searched for another job. He forwarded resumes packed with all his awards for rescuing Jessica to several fire departments. None of them responded. He ended up taking a job as a driver for a prison in Huntsville, Texas in the summer of 1993. After overdosing, police took him to a rehabilitation facility. He briefly had an interest in becoming a drug counselor, took a few courses. Eventually, he found work with an asbestos removal company in Lubbock, Texas. His life seemed to be getting back on track. The Oklahoma City bombing occurred on April 19, 1995. Watching the coverage on TV, Robert noted to his mother that the first responders would need years of counseling. Late on April 23 or early on April 24, Robert retrieved a .410 gauge shotgun and left 3 notes next to the coffee table in his mother's residence. One said, quote, "No help from nobody but family," unquote. He then drove his pickup about 15 miles away and pulled down a small road on a ranch. He removed his straw hat and used a black marker to write the words, "To Chance," in the lining to indicate he was leaving the hat to his son. Robert used the shotgun to bring an end to his life. He was 37 years old. This was his 3rd attempt. He had tried twice before using pills. The authorities would find his body at 8:30 a.m. on April 24, 1995. Now moving to my analysis. Everybody who worked to rescue Jessica McClure was a hero. Even though Robert's contributions were amazing, he could not have saved her without being part of a team. The media focused on certain people as being more heroic. Unfortunately for Robert, he was one of those rescuers who was selected by the media for attention. What's more, as his fellow firefighters turned down interviews, Robert kept saying yes. He talked to everybody in the media every time they wanted him to. What do you think happened in this case? What happened to Robert? I think this is a story of parallel stories. On one side, Robert may have developed PTSD from the rescue itself. Independent of the stress of the media coverage, he had recurring thoughts about the rescue. He replayed it in his mind thousands of times. In addition, he had migraines since about age 8 or 9, which only became worse after the rescue. He took prescription pills to alleviate the symptoms and just spiraled downward. On the other side of the story would be Robert's reaction to media coverage. It seems clear that Robert was much too invested in fame and did not understand that it would fade quickly. He thought that because the media paid a lot of attention to him initially, he would just continue to become increasingly popular, until one day he was a movie star. At every turn, he was disappointed. The ultimate insult sustained when an already small role was cut out of a made-for-TV movie. This poignantly exemplified how the media and Hollywood really felt about him.
Like that.
Robert had difficulty understanding how people could have been interested in the rescue at one time and then have their interest decrease. He wasn't prepared to be out of the spotlight. It may have been that the media attention helped him keep the PTSD symptoms at bay. Then when he lost that attention, he had to face the pain without any help. Here are my thoughts on the attitude many people have toward heroes, based on what we see in this case and other cases involving heroes. They want heroes to be humble in addition to being heroic. And the hero starts to see themselves as how they see them. If they start to believe they are really a great person, then people start to believe they are no longer worthy of being a hero. It's like everybody in the world is allowed to believe the person is a hero, but the hero is not allowed to believe it. The recipe for a popular hero is bravery and modesty. Robert O'Donnell had the former, but he was unable to maintain the latter. I think what gets lost in the story is that Robert really was a hero. He did his job in the moment that he needed to. It was in the aftermath that his behavior deviated from the ideal. I think, in a sense, he became too dependent on fame, but then it became one drug he could no longer obtain. Those are my thoughts on the case of Baby Jessica and Robert O'Donnell. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis to be informative. Thanks for watching.
Never should have.
But you know what is that Morris. A quote that will live in infamy. But Andy, you guys got the image there?
They are.
Give your point, Gerald.
They're not yet. So see if he said they have. I think that point too is. Oh, so you're saying that if I come around the corner and I see somebody who's threatening me and I point my gun at them and say no, that I can no longer defend myself. Yeah. So is that the new rule in society? Because that's what the prosecution is saying right now. That you can't point your gun at somebody in defense. Because they started it. They started it earlier in the day with their threats. That's where it started, and it started the car.
And their little bit of arsenry.
So you watch that top-down footage, Kyle's running, and he continues to run the entire time, passing people. It's not like he stopped and went.
And Rosenbaum behind the car smells the pheromones of a minor.
Yeah. So it's not like
he's like Yogi Bear with a pie on the windowsill. He's like, child?
There's a
They said Boo isn't there because he did think.
My anal fissures keep bleeding. Oh, Yogi.
And by the way, the whole argument about the fists, like you should have just fought him.
Those two bears are queer!
He tried to grab his gun. He tried to take his weapon from him. He wasn't wanting to go fist on fist. He was trying to get the gun.
Yeah, do they want to make sure the bullets are coming at you when you pull out your gun?
If you catch it with your teeth, like so.
No, they get 3 shots and then you
you get 3 shots where you have to dodge it like Neo, and then if you can't do that.
No, really, self-defense law should be equivalent to a carnival dunk tank. That's it. You should be sitting there, and then they get a few shots, and they miss it.
All right, I got the still. From what the jury's watching right now, and so they're claiming that it shows his gun when he goes to the teeth. So that is the one that has been amplified.
I've played Tetris games on Game Boy Classic, which were clear.
I've played Virtual Boy games that made more sense.
This is worse than every shitty image someone claims they see a ghost in.
Kyle, the guy in the white-looking...
Yes. Like there's Bigfoot.
Yeah, that black rifle, the black rifle turns into a white reflective surface.
Can you zoom in a little more? I mean, I know
I don't even know what I'm looking at.
Can we use amped?
I don't know what I'm looking at. Honestly, it looks like he's doing the Yogi Bear, like bending over, sticking his head up his own ass.
Yes,
is amped just an app on your phone where they didn't pay the $1.99?
Why does Kyle have a puppy filter on him?
I think Amped is the one on the left, and Brendan was saying he thinks that it's a composite from Amped on the left. It's combining 2 different frames to make a frame in between.
At what point? Look, is it me? Is it?
Who are they saying is Kyle there? Because it looked like there was a green shirt to the left of...
There's clearer pictures of Jesus on toast.
Yes.
So they're saying that Kyle is obviously not this person on the right, but the one right in the middle of that.
I think so,
That looks like this is that clearly... Wait, hold on. Bring it back up. That's clearly his shoulder strap. They're trying to say that that's his rifle aiming up. So for the first time, and again, he was running with his rifle. So hold on a second. This is really important. I am going to, I think, in real time disprove it. So right there, that is him. Everyone correct me here if I'm wrong. I just want everyone to follow me here. That is him. What they are claiming is him left-handedly holding his rifle aimed up in the air. Is that what? I just want to make
That is yes.
Is that what is being claimed?
Yes.
Okay. I will argue for you, and then we're going to bring back up that HD footage.
Quite like that.
I'll tell you why. That's very clearly a rifle strap. For the same reason, let me be really clear here. I was just speaking with yesterday, Kevin, who was a Marine. We talked about, tap, rack, bang, to clear an AR-15. Now, to be clear, when you are fixing a malfunction with an AR-15, anyone out there who knows it, I know this is remedial for people who are gun enthusiasts. If it's an AK or it's like my 9mm carbine, it can be on the side, right? So I can be holding a gun here, and I can, boom, I just cleared it. You wouldn't see it, because I'm doing it right here, right? With an AR-15, think of it like a crossbow. The bolt that you're talking about, the carrier bolt there, behind the rifle. It needs to be pulled back. So you can see an elbow pull back, you can see wrist flexion. In other words, you can't do it with the side of the rifle. So you would either have to do it typically in the Marines. Might do this. We'll come back in a second. They were told to do it in the military with their left hand, right? They never take their hand off. Tap, rack, bang. That's what you do. Tap, rack, bang. So you tap the magazine, you're pulling it back. Now, I said that if he had re-racked the gun, which we found, by the way, that was a myth that started from Gage Grossperson's Twitter. There's never any evidence of it. If you look at the footage, I don't think he could have racked it or cleared a malfunction with his left hand. Why? He wasn't wearing his sling in a way that people in the military wear it, right, where they just carry it for long distances. He was wearing his sling to, and successfully, prevent someone from being able to take it from him. If you look at that sling, when he's aiming his rifle and it's braced against his shoulder, that sling is completely taut. In other words, he could not move the rifle forward. So think about this. Completely taut, can't move it. How are you going to rack that gun? How are you going to pull this back, right? He'd be doing this. So I was saying if he ever cleared a malfunction, he most likely had to use his right hand in that scenario because of that sling. Now, this is relevant because bring that picture back up. They are claiming that that is a rifle. First off, the only way that rifle could be aimed anywhere is in the air. It's not aimed at anyone, really. It would have to be, again, what, is he aiming at George Mersham? Think about how high that rifle would be.
Yeah, that's the part where I'm confused. Let's say he's aiming away.
Right.
What's he aiming at?
They're trying to claim that he's aiming at, what's his name? Zeminski.
Yes, Zeminski.
Sorry. And this is taken from the HD footage. So here's what I'm saying. That would be, right there, if you're looking at that rifle, left-handed high. Okay? Left-handed high is how he would have to be aiming it. Now keep in mind, Kyle's rifle was so tightly strapped to him that no one could even move it off his body. Right? So imagine a rifle like this, high and tight. You cannot just do this and move it down.
Yeah, you can't.
You would have to shift it around, right? And maybe someone out there can get a rifle and get me a tight sling so I can show people in case you guys understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it's taut, right? Think of it taut, something that's taut. Yeah. Loose rifle, right? You just happen to have, you can move it however you want. This rifle was designed to create, it's actually used sometimes effective like a counterweight. With a shotgun, you have a sling that brings it tighter to your shoulder. You can't just move it any which way. Now I want to watch that footage because they are claiming that image shows the rifle high and to the left, but we see Kyle Rittenhouse running within a fraction of a second of that picture. Is his rifle high and to the left, or is it aimed down on the ground, running strong side right hand? Let's play that HD footage. Okay.
Right there.
There's Kyle Rittenhouse. Is he already running?
He's already in the parking lot.
His gun is out. We know that his gun is aiming. If we can also use the other HD footage that we have to coincide with that, the original footage of Rosenbaum.
Other angle.
In other words, look, this is pause. Okay, so rewind from the beginning, and I'm going to say pause. Okay, play. Okay, pause. That's where they're saying, right about there, is where they're saying his gun was aimed high with his left hand. Okay? That's where they're saying it would have been aimed high with his left, give or take.
Just before that.
Give or take 0.2 seconds.
Look, just before they started running is when they're setting that.
You can see him running across right now.
My point is you can see him running right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can someone bring me the footage that we also have that's up close of Rosenbaum chasing Kyle?
From the other angle, right?
Yeah, from the other angle. Because from that angle, you can see that his rifle is down and to the left. And my point is, he would only have about half a second, because he wouldn't be able to change that rifle from high to the left. First off, if you're a right-handed shooter, you're a right-handed shooter.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone who would go if he's completely ambidextrous. That's something they would have brought up. The prosecution didn't bring it up. I highly doubt it. Every single other image we have shows him holding his rifle, right-handed, strong side, aimed down to the left on the ground. And so what I'm saying here is it would have to take place within a second before he started running. That going from left hand with a taut rifle sling from here, go down, rotate it around, or slide it around his shoulder. Do we have that video, the other video of the Rosenbaum angle? Because I'm 99% sure that angle shows him with his rifle down, aimed to the left.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just want to bring this up in real time. You guys, clip this. Let's get this out because I'm amazed that no one's talking about this. If they're saying, and I'm reading right now, that shows his rifle high and left-handed.
So he'd be high and to his right.
Right. So let me present to you. Let me do this.
I've got your back.
3 things. Okay. They are saying that Kyle in that image. Now keep in mind we have HD footage, HG drone footage. We have HD footage from many different angles. Hold on there, Dave, just 1 second. We have HD footage from many different angles. They are claiming that one image shows Kyle Rittenhouse aiming his gun at somebody, and they are claiming that he is aiming that gun with his left hand high while he has a sling.
Let's get going then.
Too taut for it to be able to rotate around the body. That's their claim. Okay? Substantiate that claim, they're using a software whose own manual says this shouldn't be used in court. And point number 3. Point number 1, they're saying his rifle is high, aimed left-handed. Point number 2, they're saying that they can prove that through software that shouldn't be admissible in court. And point number 3, we have footage before and after that shows Kyle Rittenhouse with his gun down to the left as a right-handed shooter, and at no other point in the evening is he using his left hand from what I've seen. He would have to switch the position on that rifle. Control room guys, I need you guys to bring it in here. He would have to switch that within a fraction of a second for their image to hold water. Dave, you can go to the bathroom. I know you've been holding it in like a...
I'm trying.
I know. I just didn't want you to cross the screen while I was doing...
No, I was going to go to the back.
Oh, okay. All right.
Like
where
Rosenbaum?
Yeah. Or lemon. It's a lemon party. So let's go to the... We have the footage, guys?
They're working on it right now. I don't have confirmation that we have it yet. So we'll bring it in just a moment.
We just had it in like a show map in the last 48 hours.
Yes.
You guys should be able to find this, guys. Come on, I was on a roll.
Yeah. Like Rosenbaum.
Just so people watch when you know what this is, like I don't have the prompter up there. I just have so you can see this. This is like description of the clip. Like this is Binger said you forfeit the right to when you bring a gun. That's all I have. And like these clips can be labeled A through Z and then like A1, A2, A3. Yeah. And so sometimes I don't know and I'm like, I wish that I could just say, hey, bring up that clip, J from 2 days ago.
It's hard to understand. I mean, there's this whole montage that we had of them running around. This is probably, obviously we didn't have this HD footage before. We didn't have that angle from the drone before the trial. So the one that everybody saw was from the back, Kyle running away with the gun pointed down right.
And you see when he turns.
Yeah.
And again, that gun is aiming down and to the left. And let me know if they have the prop too, the rifle with a sling.
Yeah, and he points it at it as a, don't chase me down. Looks up, sees the crowd. Now, Binder also tried to say that crowd was already dispersing. The HD footage from the drone actually disputes that. It says that when he was getting in between the cars, that crowd was still very much intact. They may have been moving just a little bit, but not enough to where Kyle felt safe continuing in that direction.
Right.
Turns around, and now Rosenbaum's on him. Like, I don't care if I go, hey, Steven, hi. Does that mean now that you can chase me down and beat the hell out of me and I'm the guilty party?
Well, with you, I would look for any excuse.
Well, I mean, that's just mean.
Yeah.
At this point,
I look for any excuse.
I mean,
That's on.
You want to get Rosenbaum?
unbelievable.
Yeah,
I hope they're not.
If that is what they're asking for, then that's a problem. And again, it's a problem because it wasn't something that was submitted to evidence beforehand. And so the defense wasn't prepared to offer up a defense, which I'm offering if you have that clip there, which really would help, I believe is very effective here. In other words, they didn't have that opportunity, the defense of Kyle Rittenhouse, because this HD footage wasn't given to them.
Yeah. Well, and so the HD footage, this is something that blows my mind. Not even just the HD, but the drone footage, period. Yeah. That we have just seen is the linchpin of their case was not presented until November 5th. Right. When we saw that video where he was talking to or asking questions of one of the people, was November 5th. The trial had already been started by that point, right? Why is this stuff just now coming out? Because the media was all too happy to run every piece of video footage that they had and say Kyle was the aggressor, Kyle was the white supremacist, Kyle is this mass shooter, Kyle was the one who didn't get stopped by the police. They didn't show this other stuff over here where it shows clearly what happened.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm only begging listening to you guys.
I feel
like that's true. I have to wait until Dave comes back.
You do.
No, I am afraid. By the way, what's also relevant to your point is
out in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, considering guilt or not guilt. That is the obvious legal standard, of course. And I think it's important to go back for a walk down memory lane and retrace how this became a national issue. Because it is fascinating to see which stories in the United States become national stories and which ones simply don't. Which crime stories become national stories that every American must have an opinion on, and which ones just sort of sail under the radar. They are local news stories. So to take an example, Kermit Gosnell, an abortionist from Philadelphia who is responsible for essentially infanticide. That was not a national news story, and the media covered it as though it was national. It was not a national news story. It was a local crime story. It didn't receive front page coverage nearly anywhere because it didn't mirror a narrative that the media were attempting to tell. Whereas Kyle Rittenhouse, that story was a national news story, and the reason it was a national news story, to go all the way back, is because it was part of a broader Democratic narrative. That narrative was the true threat to America was white men who were running around trying to shoot people who were either black or who were allies of Black Lives Matter. And the conflict in 2020 both racism and the Democratic coalition. And Kyle Rittenhouse was used as the face of racism. That was always an awkward attack. It was awkward because Kyle Rittenhouse shot a guy named Kyle Molester, and shot another person who had a pretty significant criminal record, and shot a third person with a significant criminal record. And all three of the people he shot were attacking him. And all three of the people he shot were white. But the narrative had to be drawn. And because Kyle Rittenhouse was present in Kenosha, Wisconsin, in the middle of a Black Lives Matter / Antifa riot, this meant that Kyle Rittenhouse was the bad guy. Remember, the media spent all of 2020 trying to pretend that rioters were not in fact rioters. They were simply mostly peaceful protesters. And that the things they were quote-unquote protesting for were good and honorable and noble. Like defund the police. That was somehow a decent idea in 2020. Meanwhile, the murder rate picked up in America's major cities by 20, 30, 40% in some major American cities. And let's not pretend that this was not pushed by the Democratic Party. In the middle of the campaign, you'll recall in September of 2020, Joe Biden put out an ad linking Kyle Rittenhouse to white supremacists in Charlottesville. And frankly, it seems like if Kyle Rittenhouse gets acquitted, he's going to have a hell of a lawsuit on his hands against the Democratic National Committee. Here is the ad, including Kyle Rittenhouse, from September of 2020.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Okay, so you see that interspersed in this little question from Chris Wallace to Donald Trump in the 2020 campaign, the picture of Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha, and linking him with white supremacists and evil militia groups. Kyle Rittenhouse, who was there, as we'll see, available evidence by medical aid and protect property and his own life. What was expected by the Biden campaign was white supremacy and racism. It was all part of the broader narrative, which is that Trump, anyone who was voting for Trump, was secretly a racist. And sometimes not so secretly a racist. Okay, so Peter Doocy of Fox News asked Jen Psaki about the Rittenhouse trial yesterday at the White House. And now it's real awkward, because as it turns out, Rittenhouse is acting in self-defense. As it turns out, Rittenhouse is not a white supremacist. He's a 17-year-old young man, at the time of the shooting, now he's 18, who was acting in self-defense after having provided medical aid to some of the rioters. And Jen Psaki tries to dodge the question. Even so, she can't help but smear at Rittenhouse.
As you know, closing arguments in this particular case, which I'm not speaking to, I'm just making broad comments about his own view. There's an ongoing trial. We're awaiting a verdict. Beyond that, I'm not going to speak to any individuals for this case.
Has spoken to it already, and his mom now, Kyle Rittenhouse's mom, came out saying that the president defamed her son, and she claims that when the president suggested her son's white supremacist, he was doing that to win votes. Is that what happened?
I just have nothing more to speak to an ongoing case where the closing
Oh, weird. Weird how now you have nothing to say. Well, because he's president now. You got what you wanted. Biden got elected on the basis of a lie. That lie was that America is broadly speaking racist, and you needed Joe Biden to come in and reestablish equity. And one of the key features of the systemic racism blanketing America was Kyle Rittenhouse. And now that the evidence is coming out, now Jen Psaki wants to avoid the consequences of Joe Biden's lie. We'll see how that will go. The defamation trial should certainly take place after this one. part of the broader Democratic narrative. So Cori Bush, a Black Lives Matter activist, has been elected to Congress and is now an adjunct member of the squad. She tweeted out yesterday, quote, "When we marched in Ferguson, white supremacists would hide behind a hill near where Michael Brown Jr. was murdered and shoot at us. They never made the consequence. If Kyle Rittenhouse has acquitted, it tells them that even 7 years later, they can still get away with it." So, number one, I feel like I'm going to need like one shred of evidence from the Congresswoman that this ever happened. I feel like that would have been a national story. If there had been Black Lives Matter protests in 2014 and it had not shown up on a nearby hill, tonight, into a group of black protesters, I feel like that might be national. We might have forgot that just a little bit. I mean, some evidence, like one single solitary shred of evidence that this ever happened from Cori Bush. This is like Brian Williams under fire in Iraq. Just until I see a shred of, like, any of it at all. So that's a lie. But then the idea is that even if that happened, Kyle Rittenhouse has something to do with that. He's a white supremacist who was, what, out to shoot other white people that night in order to harm blackness or something? But this is the narrative, and because it's the narrative, it became a national story. The narrative always determines what is a national story, invariably. And local crime stories are white people shot wrongly by cops. Local crime stories are black people killing white people. Those are all local crime stories. White person killing black person is a national crime story. And white person killing white person, if it's in the service, the narrative of the Democratic Party, that's also a national story. So bottom line is, if it's in the interest of the Democratic Party and a broader narrative about systemic American cruelty and racism, then it becomes a national news story because the media are just the propaganda wing of the Democratic Party. It's the only reason that you know about Kyle Rittenhouse. It's the only reason that we've spent all this time on Kyle Rittenhouse. It's the only reason, frankly, why this prosecution was brought, because it is 100% clear at this point that Kyle Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. There is really no doubt. I mean, normally, all the defense has to do in these cases is establish reasonable doubt by the use of a self-defense privilege or a self-defense defense, right? That's all you have to do. You have to show reasonable doubt as to whether the defendant acted in self-defense.
About 8
in
years
this case,
now. I used
it is
to be
100% clear that the defendant acted in self-defense.
Sure. There's
Not
high
70%, not 80%, not 90%, 100%. Have it on tape.
Think long and hard about what he
But again,
wants out of
the prosecution can't let go of it.
If you're heading up to Solitude,
when the media turns something into a national issue, and then prosecutors feel the necessity to bring a case because of national pressure.
We could
That is
always
indeed
use help picking
akin
jobs.
to
We
mob
need a
justice.
few extra coins.
It's just done by using the prosecutor as the tool of the mob. If a mob arrives at a jail to hang somebody and they make the sheriff their tool, that doesn't make it any less of a mob. Okay, so let's go through the Kyle Rittenhouse timeline here, because you can see, by the way, how the media made this part of a broader narrative and why it became a national story. So here's the New York Times timeline leading up to Kyle Rittenhouse. They begin with the killing of George Floyd. Now you might say to yourself, what the hell does Kyle Rittenhouse defending himself have to do with George Floyd? That's a completely separate criminal trial involving Derek Chauvin. By the way, another criminal trial where I truly believe that national media sentiment played a massive role in how that trial was performed and how the verdict came down. I do not believe that the evidence in even the Derek Chauvin trial was sufficient to support the finding of the jury. But put that aside. One trial really has nothing to do with the other. And George Floyd has nothing to do with the shootings of Anthony Huber or Jacob Rosenbaum or Joseph Rosenbaum or any of the other characters in Kenosha, Wisconsin. But the New York Times starts its story, of course, with George Floyd, because this is all part of the protest story. And then they move forward to August 23rd, 2020. And this is what led things off in Kenosha, Wisconsin. So there's a guy named Jacob Blake. Jacob Blake was a black resident who, according to the New York Times, was shot and seriously wounded by a white police officer. Now, the question is, why was he there? The reason that the police officer was there is he was called there by Jacob Blake's ex-girlfriend. And Jacob Blake's ex-girlfriend had called the cops because he showed up at the door. He was not supposed to. Restraining order against him. She had previously reported alleged rape against Jacob Blake. Okay, so the police show up, and they tried to take him into custody unannounced in July on charges of third-degree sexual assault, criminal trespass, and disorderly conduct. Blake fights the cops, and then he has a knife. They tell him to put down the knife repeatedly, and then he doesn't, so they shoot him. And here's tape of that particular incident.
To the inn for a drink, of course. Where else could I even go when it's God's forsaken?
Cross the bridge at your own peril. The way is dangerous.
Right, this is the story, and people are shouting and screaming.
You shall not gain entry.
Okay, so here's the thing. The media immediately covered this as another wrongful shoot because the media were in search of the narrative. The narrative was police everywhere are
Most
racist.
This is
and
the
horrible,
College of
because
Winterhold,
America is racist and
a
horrible.
safe haven
And so
for mages
anytime
and
there's a shooting of
Skyrim,
a black man
a place of
by a white
wisdom
police
and
officer,
arcane knowledge.
this is evidence of systemic racism. Now, again,
I
even
am
if you go back to George
and
Floyd,
if
there's not
the
a
more
single
important
allegation that was made
question is,
anywhere in the
perhaps,
trial. There's
but
not a
what is
single
it
piece
you
of evidence
expect
to
to
suggest
find
that
with
Derek
it?
Chauvin killed George
It
Floyd
would
because
seem
Derek
not
Chauvin
just
is
anyone.
a racist.
A small test.
That just does not
if you-
exist.
No,
that was not even
I'm
alleged
afraid I don't
in
know
the trial.
anything of the sort.
And yet it became the predicate for the
The
broader
flame
claim that America
atronach
is
is a
racist.
vital
And then that
companion
broader
for anyone
claim was
relying
used
on
in order to
conjuration.
characterize the Jacob Blake
I
shooting.
look forward to it.
And it was a bad example because Jacob Blake was a criminal who refused to comply with police commands and was carrying a weapon at the time.
The college is an
That is what they call it.
goes unnoticed.
It did not matter. The media decided to treat it as though it was a bad racist shoot and indicative of the broad level of
Well
suspicion
done,
and
indeed.
racism that,
I
that
think
black
you'll be a
Americans
superb
live under
addition to the
thanks to the
college.
predations of American
Welcome,
police
apprentice.
officers each and every day.
I'll lead you
And
across
this resulted,
the
of
bridge.
course, in
Once
Kenosha
you're
burning.
inside, you'll want to speak
Right,
with
this
Mirabelle
is where you saw the
Irvine,
famous
our
video
master wizard.
of members of the
Please,
press standing
follow
outside
me.
burning buildings talking about how it was all mostly peaceful. There's some of the video from Kenosha. You can see cars being set on fire, people wandering the streets in the middle of the night, videoing it. It's just good times
Much
all over
knowledge
in
lies within
Kenosha,
the college's
Wisconsin.
walls.
Okay, so these burnings continue, and Kyle Rittenhouse shows up. Okay, so the protesters began August 24th. They say protesters, but what we mean really is rioters. Rioters started setting fire to cars, looting and burning buildings, and knocking over street lamps. Okay, and Kyle Rittenhouse shows up on August 25th. And we have video of exactly why Kyle Rittenhouse was there. A contra the prosecution's claim that he was there to shoot people. Kyle Rittenhouse explained. Again, this is before the shooting. Richie McGinnis was the reporter on the scene, asking Rittenhouse why he was there. This is before the shootings occurred. And here was Kyle Rittenhouse explaining.
When people are getting injured, and our
I believe
job is
I've made
protect
myself
their
rather
business, and
clear.
part of my job is helping.
Welcome to
If there's
the
somebody hurt,
Another News.
I'm running into harm's
Well,
way.
first, I'll
That's
give
why
you
I
a
have my
brief tour,
record.
and then we'll get you to your first class. Are you ready to begin?
We're protecting from the citizens, and I just got pepper
Wonderful.
sprayed by
The College of Winterhold has been a fixture in Skyrim for thousands of years.
non-lethal, but
A prominent feature here is the
we
Hall
don't
of
have
the Elements.
non-lethal.
It's our primary
you guys are full
location
on
for
ready to
lectures,
defend the
practice
property?
sessions, and
Yes,
general
we are.
meetings.
Now, if I can ask
The
you guys
Arcanium is
something.
located above the
Medical,
hall.
EMS right here.
While technically in charge of the college, the Archmage's
Okay, so
responsibilities
he was
often
pepper
keep
sprayed,
him
didn't shoot anybody. He's
Thus,
asked, are you there
I
to
run
defend
the
the
day-to-day
property? He says
operations.
yes. Because the
Now,
prosecution
if you'll
tries
please
to make it
follow
out
me,
that
I'll
he's going to
show you
shoot
the
anybody who
living
threatens the
quarters.
property. But he literally says in the prior
Unfortunately, we've
sentence
had to
that
implement
if
more
somebody
stringent
threatens
entry
him with
procedures
non-lethal force,
due to some
he can't
problems
shoot
with
them.
the local
Right?
norms.
He immediately
We
says
don't
that.
anticipate any real
Okay,
violence,
so this is all the
but it
predicates,
never
the actual
hurts to be
events of that night.
prepared.
And the reason we're going through this in detail is to demonstrate how this didn't fit into the media narrative, but he had to be prosecuted anyway, because the narrative matters more than anything else. This is why when people say that the media lying, well, what difference does it make? What difference does it make? You just create these broad narratives from false circumstances. The answer is, it makes a hell of a lot of difference for individuals like Kyle Rittenhouse, who ends up wrongfully wrangled into a legal trial for his life, based on non-existent evidence, because the narrative matters more than the actual evidence. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Ben Shapiro Show. If you did, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you stay up to date with all our future content.
Our newest members are housed here, in the Hall of Attainment. I'll ask that you please keep your voice down while inside, as others may be working on research or delicate experiments.
Correct? I didn't intend to kill them. I intended to stop the people who were attacking me. Like that? I did what I had to do to stop the person who was attacking me. By killing them. 2 of them passed away, but I stopped the threat from
Now I'll
attacking
show you to
me.
your quarters.
By using
You're going to be
deadly
sharing
force.
space
I
with your
used
fellow
deadly
apprentices,
force
who you'll
that
meet
you
shortly.
knew was going to kill.
This is where you'll be
I didn't
staying.
know if it was going to kill
This
them, but
bed
I
and desk
used
are
them.
yours.
I used deadly force
Please
to
try and
stop
be
the threat that
considerate
was
of
attacking
others.
me.
Now,
You
let's go back to the Hall of the
intentionally
Elements, where most of the
deadly
members
force
gather
against
for
Joseph
lectures and study
Rosenbaum, correct?
sessions.
Yes. You intentionally used deadly force against the man who came and tried to kick you in the face. Yeah,
After I finish showing you
You
the grounds,
intentionally
we can
used
talk.
deadly force against Anthony Huber, correct? Yes. You intentionally used deadly force against Gage Grosskreutz, correct? Yes. With regard to Joseph Rosenbaum, you fired 4 shots at him, correct? Yes. You intended to kill him, correct? I didn't intend to kill him. I intended to stop the person who was attacking me and trying to steal my gun. Since August 25th, 2020, this is the first time that you have told your story.
Sustained.
Since August 25th, 2020, you've had the benefit of watching
Initially, you'll be
countless
learning from Tolkien,
videos
one of our
of
most
your
esteemed
actions that night,
wizards.
correct?
I've seen certain videos, not all of them. I've seen the majority of them actually here during the trial.
You've also had the opportunity to read articles. People have written interviews, things like that, about what happened that night, correct?
I do my best to avoid what people write on the internet. A majority of it is not true.
You have also sat here through 8 days of trial, correct?
Yes.
You've had the opportunity to watch all of the videos that have been played in this trial.
Yes.
Sir, if you could please let me finish my question.
Tolfdir is likely already
I will do
addressing
my
the new
best to
apprentices.
let you finish your
Go on
answer
in,
before I go
and
on
if
to
you
the
have
next
any
question,
problems,
okay?
let one of our senior members know.
You've also had the opportunity to listen to the testimony of all 30-some witnesses that have testified in this trial so far, correct?
Yes.
And after all of that now, you are telling us your side of the story, correct?
Correct.
Welcome. We were just beginning. Please, stay and listen. So, as I was saying, the first thing to understand is that magic is, by its very nature, volatile and dangerous. Unless you can control it, it can and will destroy you.
This is a grave
Sir, I think we all understand that fairly well. We wouldn't be here if we couldn't control magic.
Of course, my dear, of course. You all certainly possess some inherent natural ability. That much is not being questioned. What I'm talking about is true control, mastery of magic. It takes years, if not decades, of practice and study.
Then what are we waiting for? Let's get started.
Please, please. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Eagerness must be tempered with caution, or else disaster is inevitable.
But we've only just arrived here. You've no idea what any of us are capable of. Why not give us a chance to show you what we can do?
You've been quiet so far. What do you think we should do? Is that so?
See, he agrees with us too. Why don't you actually show us something?
All right, let's settle down. I suppose we can try something practical. In continuing with our theme of safety, we'll start with wards. Wards are protective spells that block magic. I'll teach you all a ward, and we'll see if you can successfully use it to block spells, all right? Would you mind helping me with the demonstration? Are you at all familiar with ward spells? That's what this... Now, if you'll just stand right over there, I'll cast a spell at you. And you block it with the ward. Here we go. Over there, please, just opposite me. Wouldn't want anyone else in the way. Now, cast the ward spell. You have to keep your ward up, or else this won't work. I don't want to hurt you. Over there, please, just opposite me. Wouldn't want anyone else in the way. Now, cast the ward spell.
Just
still.
Excellent. One of the few things that keep us in touch with the rest of Skyrim.
I'd like you all to continue practicing with wards, please. I think perhaps we're ready to begin exploring some of the various applications of magic throughout history. The college has undertaken a fascinating excavation in the ruins of Sarthal nearby. It's an excellent learning opportunity. I suggest we meet there in a few hours and see what awaits us inside. That's all for now. Thank you.
You know, this is one of a very few places where you can receive a real education in the schools of magic.
Good to see Skyrim still has such... It's always encouraging to see the younger generations embracing education.
You need boards.
Winterhold be small as fuck. Thank you very much.
Protects me for insight. Sustains. Azura has seen your coming, traveler. It was not curiosity, but fate that has led you here.
Yeah.
Perhaps that is what you are meant to believe. Do not fight it. Azura's prophecies all... You must go... It is cryptic, I know, but Azura's signs are never wrong. I believe the fortress may refer to Winterhold. Ask if they know this elven enchanter. She is the goddess of dawn and dusk. Azura sees into the twilight of the future. My people, the Dunmer, built it. We fled from Morrowind after Vardenfell erupted. Those of us who were faithful to Azura were... This shrine is our thanks to her, that none will forget that she watches over us.
And here we all are. Shall we step inside?
This is exciting, isn't it?
It's always encouraging to see the younger generations embracing anything at all that might be of interest. That's why I adore this location. We have no idea what we're going to find. And if along the way my message about the dangers of magic should happen to sink in for a few students, that would be a happy coincidence. Take care now.
This is better than sitting around talking about magic, don't you think? This is exciting, isn't it? This is better than sitting around talking about magic, don't you think? This is exciting, isn't it? 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 This is better than sitting around talking about magic.
It's always encouraging to see the... Study stars, you say? Why, there hasn't been a... Well, it's a... You should head to the Frozen Hearth and speak with Nellikar. It's his story to tell, and I wouldn't want to discredit him by talking behind his back. We're particularly interested in the prevalence of magical seals placed on the tombs here. All right. Please stay close to me while we're inside.
Talking about magic,
it should be safe,
don't you think?
But it's always better to be cautious.
find it hard to believe this excavation was improved.
As some of you may know, Sarthor was one of the earliest Nord settlements in Skyrim. It was also the largest. Sacked by the elves in the infamous Night of Tears, not much is known about what happened to Sarthor. This is an exciting opportunity for us. Well, are there any questions before we begin? Ah, yes. Well, why don't you see if you can assist Arniel Gain? He's one of our scholars, here working on cataloging our finds. I expect he'd appreciate any enchanted items will do. The usefulness of the enchantment is irrelevant. Now let's see. What shall we have the rest of you do? All right, everyone. Let's be careful, but have fun.
It's going to take forever to sit through all this. What? You must be one of the new apprentices, then. I've only looked through a portion of this section. Try and be careful, all right? We don't... Just round up the rest of the magical artifacts so that I can catalog them.
What in the world was that racket? Is everything all right? How in the world did that... Really? Perhaps the amulet is important somehow. What in the world was that racket? Is everything all right? How in the... Really? Perhaps the amulet is important somehow. Is there some way you can use it?
I'm right behind you. Please be careful here. Well, would you? This appears to lead somewhere. Let's see where it goes. Oh.
I do hope you know what you're doing with those... Hold, mage, and listen well. Know that you have set in motion a chain of events that cannot be stopped. Judgment has not been passed, as you had no way of knowing. Judgment will be passed on your actions to come, and how you deal with the dangers ahead of you. This warning is passed to you because the Psijic Order believes in you. You, mage, and you alone, have the potential to prevent disaster. Take great care, and know that the Order is watching.
I swear I felt something rather strange just then. What just happened? I'm afraid I didn't see it. Can you tell me more about what you saw? The Psijic Order? And danger ahead? The Psijics have no connection to these ruins, and no one's seen any of their order in a long time. Perhaps we should take a look. Now, please do be careful. Who knows what we're going to... They were a group of mages with a history that predates... No one's seen them in well over 100 years. They vanished, along with their sanctuary on the Isle of Artaeum. I have no idea what connection they'd have to this place. I have no idea, but it's fascinating. The Isle of Artaeum disappeared, and yet now, if nothing else, I'd take it as a compliment. The Psijics have only... I can certainly share a bit of what I know. Prepared to defend yourself. Be prepared to defend yourself. Seen anything like this in Nordic ruins before. Why, just look at all these coffins. This bed, be prepared to defend yourself. Until next time.
Huh?
right behind you. Lead on.
Lydia.